Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked. Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us. Jason is doing the engineering in Minnesota at GCN. I'm Vincent Finelli. Rich Sheben's with us. Welcome, Rich Scheben.
Well, thank you, Vince. How are you doing this morning?
Very, very well. And I just want to let our class know, if you'd like to call us, here's the number, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line is up and running, 605-477-3249. Rich Sheeben, there's so many things going on, but I feel that I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. There's some people I would love to thank. Luke Cassidy, USA Prepares instructor. Thank you for your kindness. I really appreciate it. Joey in Michigan, thank you for your kindness. Captain John Regan, for your excellence in research and observations. And our friends in Rolla, Missouri, for the Native American artwork. It's right here in the studio, enhancing the USA Prepares studio. Sharon and Kyle in Montana. Kind words, encouragement, contributions to USA Prepares. Thank you. Norm Shealy for bringing our whole worldwide class, Excellence in Medicine. Thank you, Dr. Norm Shealy. Trevor in New York, joining the broadcast as an instructor. I get a chance to talk to him off the air. He's quite insightful. He's got great powers of observation. John Statmiller, for your keen eye and wit and powers of observation as well. And for putting USA Prepares on Republic Broadcasting Network. Nobody else I know of in a network environment has a show or a broadcast from another network on their network. But Republic Broadcasting does that. Ron Gibson, thank you for carrying USA Prepares on your YouTube channel, along with Mike Rivero. Ricky Rocket. What can I say about Ricky? He's absolutely one of a kind. Brilliant physicist. Thank you for your unusual thoughts, observations. Guineith Isaacs. She's our Australian correspondent. Observations from on the ground. And then we have Rich Scheben, who's been with us for years. Thank you for your dedication, your research. I know you do hours and hours of research a day and compile them to share with our broadcast class. I've just mentioned a few of our instructors. There's so many more. There's a couple hundred of us. And I want to thank all of our instructors and all of our engineers. And why am I saying this, class? Because I feel that I should. I feel that I should tell you that USA Prepares may not be on the air. And I don't know for how much longer. I don't know. And I'm going to tell you why. I received a communique from the network, and I would be obligated to pay $500 per month to stay on the air. And that's not something that I can do. Farming, as I look around the farms here, just in our local, very tiny radius, neighboring farms, there are about 2,000 acres of farms for sale in our neck of the woods. And I'm not talking like a 30-mile radius. I'm just talking a very small area. Farms that maybe 3 or 4 farms over from us. About 2,000 acres. That would be a calculation on the back of a napkin. I don't have the real number, but just, by powers of observation and powers of estimation tell me it's about 2,000 acres. The reason that the farms are for sale is because the farmers are unable to make it. They can't do it. The costs are too high. The prices are too low for the beef that they're selling or the crops they're selling, and they're getting wiped out. Dairy farmers are going under. Machinery keeps costing more. Parts keep costing more. Taxes keep going up. Government oppression keeps going up. Rules and regulations keep going up. And farmers are going under. So we do not, and we're hanging on. I mean, we're just hanging on. I got a call from John Stadtmiller last night. We're on the phone, and he said, I got good news. It looks like beef prices are going up. And I said, yeah, they're going to go up, but the cost of feeding them is going to go up too. So it's not a good sign for farmers, at least the kind of farming that we do. So I am unable to pay the $6,000 out of my wallet to be on the air. Now, if that's something that we absolutely have to do, we're going to be going away. And that's okay with my family. As a matter of fact, my wife would really like it. I mentioned this to her, and she said, well, it'd be great to have your help on the farm. Now, why did she say that? She said that because first hour in the morning when I wake up is spent preparing for the broadcast. Couple hours during the day preparing for the broadcast. When I come in, grab a bite to eat, maybe lunch, maybe dinner, hop on the computer, do some research, compile my notes. Then before I go to bed, close to midnight, do some more research. So it's probably the 2 hours that I'm on the air, the hour before the broadcast, that'd be 3, and probably 3 more hours during the day. So it's like 6. And the weekends, just take out 2 hours a day that I would not be on the air, which would be Saturday and Sunday, but it would be 4 hours of preparation. So that would free me up for that if I'm not on the air, roughly 6 hours a day, Monday through Friday. And that's what she meant by it'd be nice to have your help around the farm. It's not like I don't help around the farm. It's just that the morning shot. And so in order to hang on to the farm, I have to do some other things to generate income to keep the farm. We don't make any money on USA Prepares. We don't, I don't get paid by the network or the radio stations for broadcasting. I'm a volunteer. I've always been a volunteer. And all of our instructors are volunteers. Nobody gets paid. Nobody gets paid. Now, I don't want you to think this is woe is me. That's not what this is about. I'm just explaining to you the way it really is, because I think you have a right to know. So that if we do end up going off the air, it's because we can't afford it. It's as simple as that. It's economics. And I'm not blaming Genesis Communications Network. I love Genesis Communications Network. I've never met Ted Anderson. I've never met any of our engineers, but they're delightful. They're wonderful. They're as good as it gets. They're helpful, kind, courteous. They encourage us. And they are the other half of the broadcast. It's us speaking and it's them engineering. And they do a fabulous job. but it's economics. It costs money to be on a satellite. Satellites. What happens is the signal gets, originated at the network, and then it goes up through their communications equipment, which is not free. Satellite time is not free. Everybody's getting paid on the distribution side. And then the radio stations pick up the satellite feed and rebroadcast it. Well, somebody's got to pay for all that. And unfortunately, we are not in a position to do that. Now, maybe some broadcasters can, and that's wonderful. They're selling things, and we're really not selling anything. So then the question comes to, what about all these commercials that we have? Well, I give away all my commercials, every single one. I have some, and I give that time to people I think deserve it because they've helped us here at USA Prepares. They're kind people, specifically Stephen Ewer, Synergistic Nutrition. I've given him all my commercials. So I don't get compensated for that. And that's by choice. He didn't say, hey, Vinny, you have to do it. I offered it to him because I thought it was the right thing to do because he is that good. So Rich Scheben's not selling anything. I mean, he has his book, but book sales aren't going to carry him. John Regan has book sales, but they're not going to carry him. I think I have book serial number 2 of John Regan's book. He offered me serial number 1, but I wouldn't accept it. I said he has to keep that. Well, so that's the situation. And if we are off the air, I want to make sure I thank all of you for being with us for all this time. And I will post an announcement on the website as to what happened. But I don't expect that we will continue. If we go off the air, we go off the air. Now, there's a possibility that instead of using the satellite, we can use the internet to distribute this broadcast to our affiliates. There's that possibility. But I don't have enough details on it to tell you if that's viable or not. And the affiliates may not want it. The affiliates may say it's too much trouble. We just want to pick it up off the satellite. So if that's the case, we may be gone. And I don't know when. I don't know when. It could be this week, this month. I don't know. We'll be right back. So, class, if you're wondering what would happen to those of us at USA Prepares, well, it's kind of simple. We would just go back to doing what we all used to do, before we got together. And in my case, I'm just going to spend more time on the tractor, more time with the cows, more time under the equipment, repairing, those kinds of things. And it's as simple as that. And do I want this to happen? Of course not. Of course not. Do I enjoy radio? Yes, I do. Yeah. And why? Well, it's a passion for us. All of us at USA Prepares are passionate about what we do. We're not trying to get rich doing this. We're not trying to be sensational. But I just want to take a few more seconds and brag for the instructors. I believe that they are the best and brightest on radio today. I really believe that. I really believe that if you had the ability to call the faculty of USA Prepares about whatever you were thinking about, whatever is happening to you in your life, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better repository of knowledge, insight, concern, forthrightness than what is available at USA Prepares. And as I look at the typical programs that are on the radio, and I'm not talking about Republic Broadcasting, I'm not talking about Genesis Communications Network, I'm talking about the lame media, the other guys, the mainstream, the bought and paid for, those guys. If you get a chance to listen to their drivel, their tripe, their nonsense, their meaningless broadcast, the waste of energy. It's unbelievable. How can anybody listen to that crap? But people do. And that's why we're in so much trouble. That's why. And this may sound strange, but I want to especially thank our detractors, because they have shown us that we are over the target. They have shown us the depths of despair that people have. They have shown us how mean and rotten and disgraceful the generally dumb public can be. They have shown us the path that we're taking. They have shown us how it will end. It will end based on their beliefs, their ignorance, their outrageous, unacceptable behavior. And I really want to thank them, because without seeing it firsthand, their reactions to us, we wouldn't know how stupid people could be. Really. Rich Scheben, any comments?
Wow. Yeah, I can comment for a few hours, but I know we don't have that. But, first of all, you're welcome. And, what everyone has in common on usaprepares.com, and not just the names that you mentioned, but the hundreds who have been on the show, what they're doing is, what they have in common is patriotism, stand for principle and stand for the little guy. And when you look at the ratings of USA Prepares, it's pretty obvious that Vince, your show is number 3 out of 84 on GCN, and the only one, as you have mentioned, on RBN, Republic Broadcasting Network, from GCN. So if your show goes down, it's who I really feel sorry for are the people who are not being represented, which is the little guy, the bottom 93%, because I feel this show does a good job at doing that. And there's so many topics of discussion, from financial, economic, social, political, rationale to political correctness, to all the corruption, the manipulation, the nepotism. I mean, we can go on and on. It's so difficult to cover. If you saw the notes that I have in front of me, I could probably speak for 7-8 hours every day, 5 days a week. There's no way that's going to happen. But what we needed to do is keep waking up the silent majority, whether you're at home, whether you're in your neighborhood, whether you're on the radio. It doesn't matter. And I'll add to that after the break, Vince.
Okay. Rich Scheben's with us, offgridmontana.com. And if you'd like to call in, here's the number, 866-582-9933. Class, Rich Scheben's with us, and the call screen is lit up. So here's what we'll do. I'm going to have to ask our callers to be succinct and just say what they want very quickly, and maybe for a couple minutes, because we're going to run out of time. Lou in Illinois, welcome. You're on with Rich Scheben and me. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, Vinny. Good morning, Rich.
Morning,
Hey.
Lou.
Hey, Vinny, I'll be real quick here. I just want to let you know that I will do my fair share to keep you on the air. So,
Well, okay.
If you plan to go, I'm sorry, if you want to go that way.
I really appreciate that, and I think what you're talking about is the Plan Z,
Okay.
not ABC. But I really, there's so many broadcasters who accept donations. Okay, there's so many, and I thought from the very beginning, if I ever had to do that, I wouldn't do it, only because I don't think it's right. And let me explain why. The model has changed. The model used to be that broadcasters were paid to go to the radio stations and broadcast. They were paid by the stations. I'm talking, up until maybe the 1980s, maybe 90s even. And that's what they did. They would investigate and they would report and so forth. Well, the model is now changed where to be on the air, you have to actually pay for the airtime. And I'm not faulting the networks for this. The climate has changed. I'm not faulting GCN in any way, shape, or form. Genesis Communications Network has been wonderful to me. I couldn't ask for anything better than what they've given me. They have given me total freedom. Not once has anyone at Genesis ever said, hey, Vinny, you ought to do this. You ought to say that. You shouldn't say. Please don't say. Never. Not even a hint. It's never, it's as good as it gets. Total freedom. Exactly what you would expect from to happen to guys like us who don't take direction very well. I've had no direction whatsoever. None. And it's just the way I love it. And we understand that there's certain things that we can do, should do, ought to do, and there's certain things that we shouldn't do. Like we shouldn't swear. We shouldn't curse. And we don't. And we understand that we have to behave like ladies and gentlemen, and we do. It's all understood. And the network I've never seen anything that says from Genesis in writing or orally that says, here are the rules. They've never given me the rules. Never. Because I believe they expect that we know what we should do. As a matter of fact, some networks are so on edge with broadcasts that they live with their finger on the mute button in case something goes out over the air. And you know what? You know what the engineers tell me? They never have to worry about that with us. What a compliment.
Oh, yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
Well, Lou, you would never think of saying anything that was unprofessional, not true, use profanity.
Or even impolite. Yep.
Correct.
Yeah, well, I just want to let you know, Benny, if you go to Plan Z, I'm with you.
Okay, I really appreciate it, Lou. Thank you so much for calling in. Anything else?
No, just say hi to you guys.
And thank you for being so kind to us. Thank you.
Okay, Benny. Bye.
George in Mississippi, welcome.
Hey, guys. Good morning.
Good morning.
I was calling about a couple of things you've been talking about the last week. One was the plumbing fixtures that you were talking about.
Yes.
I wanted to let you know that I've been having good results with Delta faucets because they have a lifetime warranty. Anything happens, I call them up and tell them what the problem is, and they send me the replacement parts, no questions asked. And they just tell them what's going on.
George, let me put an exclamation point on that. I bought a used Whirlpool tub. Normally, I would never do that, but there was one that was put into a house, spec house, and the owners bought it and they didn't like it. So it went in, never was used, and was taken out. And it was for sale on the internet at probably 20% of what it should be. It came with a Delta faucet. The faucet, the whole thing was $200. The faucet itself was worth $200. And I hooked it all up, and the faucet dripped hot and cold. I called Delta, and I said, I have this particular model faucet, and it's dripping. What should I do? They said, would it be okay if we sent you a new set, hot and cold? Wow, really? You don't want any proof of anything? They said, absolutely not. So, exclamation point. Delta, same thing as American Standard in terms of customer response. You are absolutely correct.
And then I heard Dr. Shealy yesterday talking about the fish. He was talking about Atlantic salmon. I mean, not
Yes.
Atlantic, Pacific salmon.
Yes, cold
The only
water.
thing I'm worried about that is the radiation in the Pacific with all the seafood coming out of there. I don't know if you saw it, but I sent you an email about the NOAA map that shows the radiation spread across the Pacific.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was in 2013, that map, and I'm sure it looks worse than what it is now.
We have had information on the radio, I'm not saying us, that, it could never happen. Could never happen. The radiation from Japan, it's thousands of miles away. It'll never get here. It was here within months. Miles, one of our instructors in Europe, was visiting the United States. He brought his radiation survey meters, and he said that he couldn't believe it. All over the beaches in California, wherever he went, the radiation was really high, like 1,100 clicks per minute. I mean, very, very high. That's what happened. And, it's not being reported. I was on the air right after Fukushima happened, the day after, and I said, this is the worst man-made disaster since Noah's flood. People laughed at us, laughed at me, thought we were nuts. It's absolutely true. You're right, George.
And even with the Gulf, I live 20 miles from the Gulf. I used to go fishing all the time. And after the BP oil spill with all the Corexic that they've been pumping into the Gulf, won't eat it. I cannot eat seafood out of the Gulf anymore. So the Pacific's gone, the Gulf's gone.
Spring is gone. Here in Missouri, we went from winter 2 weeks ago to summer a couple days ago. I'm serious. I've been growing an avocado from the avocado stone. It's about 7 feet tall. It's in the studio until a few days ago when I put it outside. It has to have warm temperatures in order to survive. After growing this for a couple of years, I wouldn't risk putting it outside if I thought it was going to die. It's thriving outside because it's so warm. 53 degrees this morning at sunrise here at the farm. It was 70, well, it was in the 70s yesterday during the day. This is not normal. This is not normal.
George, you really have to sometimes just pick your battles. And when I say that, I mean everything is contaminated. There's food-like products, everything, the so-called fat-free, which is high sugar content. America in general is overfed, undernourished, and underexercised. So when you look at it, aspartame, MSG, nicotine, high fructose corn syrup, all these chemicals are designed to be addictive. There's propylene glycol in so many foods. There's glyphosate, the Roundup, which is cancer-causing in so many foods. Now we have to deal with nanotechnology tracking your food from the fork all the way to, or from the farm all the way to the fork. There's Monsanto products besides glyphosate. 96% of Monsanto shareholders, years ago, I've mentioned this a few times over the air, admitted to not disclosing what's in GMO ingredients. So when you look at all the immune suppressants, there's a lot more of those out there in food, especially that's purchased at restaurants and supermarkets, than immune stimulants. And, the proteins, the amino acids, the enzymes, they've literally been hijacked and modified in the laboratory, and it's affected our nutrition because it's changed our metabolism, and the food has changed its bioavailability. So I can go on and on and on, and this is one of the reasons why we talk on USA Prepares about we've spent many a day talking about gardening and gardening secrets and what to do and how to stay organic and things like that. When you think about what we pay as Americans on our immune system regarding synthetic drugs, like our immune system deals with inflammation, allergies, infections, circulation, detoxification, cancers, and tumors. And that's one of the reasons I harvest a lot of edible and medicinal plants, which I've talked about on the air as well. You can't even live in an urban suburban area without getting fluoride or chlorine or 200 other chemicals in your drinking water. And China labels fluoride as a pesticide. And we can go on and on and on about the health benefits of being independent and having a garden and having a little bit of land, having a hobby farm and living that way. And that's some of the things that we talk about. Unfortunately, it's amazing 2 hours just goes by so fast. I have so much information every show, and I never get through 1/10 of it. I mean, even when Vince is gone and I monologue the show when I host it, I very rarely get through 30 or 40% of my material because
and then
there's
it's
so much
not my
information
fault
out there that I feel obligated to give to the people.
Yeah, and when I'm not here, it's not my fault, right, Rich? George,
That's right.
Thank you. George, thank you for being in class today, and thank you for your call.
Appreciate what you do, and great shows. Love you. Listen to you every day.
Thank you so much. David, you're up next. Class, what we do here at USA Prepares, all of our instructors are trying to teach you how to think the way we do. Not to believe what we believe, but to think the way we think, how to ferret out the truth, how to look at what you see and determine whether it's real or not. That's what we're here to do, to teach you to think, and the old expression is outside the box, to teach you that you can be independent. You do not have to be in shackles. You can think for yourself. And that's what we want to do. We want to free your mind so that you can think for yourself. David in Illinois, welcome.
Hey, how you doing? I was really gonna say in the beginning, like the first caller did, is I'm willing to do what I can to help support your show as well. You were the first show I have ever got the courage to call in, which was a lot for me to do. And the fact that your callers, your instructors, everybody is honest and truthful, that to me is worth fighting and supporting for.
Well, David, I appreciate it. I'm not asking for that, and I think it's wonderful that you volunteered. It breaks my heart to hear these things. I don't know what to say, but as I mentioned to Lou Cassidy, a USA Prepares instructor who called in, that's Plan Z. I really don't want to ask those who listen to support us. I really don't. And I have a question for you. You mentioned that we were the first broadcast that you had the courage to call in. I believe those were your words. Why?
Yeah.
Why, David? And by the way, you're going to be on, I'm looking at the calendar, you're going to be on Friday for 2 hours, 2-hour special with you. David, so why was it USA Prepares that you felt that you could call in?
Like you, I don't like the profanity. I don't like I don't like the lack of I'm trying to be nice about this. The lack of intelligence that these people call in about when they do call in to other shows. It's like they just want to argue or argue. It's hard to trying to explain the situation and try to be nice. It's nice to hear the honesty and the concern and want to get to a point instead of just trying to batter and get ratings and just want to get something out there. I got kind of put on the spot here, so I didn't exactly get to.
Yeah, yes, you were. Well, let me give you an example. Yesterday, I was talking with my dear friend and Dr. Norman Shealy. We were talking about a bug, a fungus called C. auris, A-U-R-U-S. It's not known widely that this is a fungus that is almost impossible to kill. And when it ends up in a hospital, if a person goes into the hospital with that, they've got to destroy the room. They've got to rip out the ceiling tiles, the light fixtures, the equipment, even the floor tiles, because they can't kill this. And it can spread like wildfire, and it has. And it's claimed about half of its victims in 90 days. Okay, so if you get it, the odds are you're going to be dead in 90 days, at least 50%. Then I was talking with Dr. Shealy about something that I learned, that if I have sugar before going to bed, I will have nightmares. And I explained this, and I said that I tested it on and off and on and off, just to make sure that it was true, that sugar drove me into nightmares. Nightmares that would put me in a situation that I've never been in, like being in the middle of the ocean and trying to swim to shore, and I could never do it. I would try and be exhausted, but I could never extricate myself from the situation. So on the Ron Gibson channel on YouTube, there's this troll by the name of 408 Magenta. So what does he say? He says, run, Vinny, run. Don't stop swimming. Just run. What I'm saying is there are so many evil, sick, perverted people out there. It's awful. So I'm calling him out. Magenta, if you want to come on the air, come on the air. Do it soon, though. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Rich Sheben's with us. David in Illinois is with us. David, your thoughts?
Yes, I don't, all that stuff worries me. You're the first show I ever heard this about, the situation. Now, I've been spreading your show about, with a lot of individuals that are encouraging me to talk and listen. And the same thing, they say the same, if somebody doesn't like it, why do you waste the time to listen? I do not understand the psychology behind somebody.
Okay, all right. Let me comment on that. So on Monday, Dr. Shealy was not with us. Now, he's been with us from Mondays for quite a long time. He's been with us every week for about 8 years now. And over the weekend, we got an email that he had a conference call about a patient, and it was with the legal system. So he was in this call. And I didn't want him to be pressed for time because the call was going to come really close to broadcast time. And I didn't want him to have to worry about us while he's trying to take this important call. So I said, I'll tell you what, why don't you make sure you take the call and do that, give that your full attention, and we'll see you next week. So Sharon in Montana was with us, and George in New Hampshire, 1 hour each. And so the broadcast was about making canning and making beef jerky, the equipment that's used, the prices, and then and the experiences from Sharon about how to use the equipment and what to buy and so forth, what to pay. And then second hour, thank you. Sharon's wonderful. I've never met her, but she's wonderful. She volunteers just like you and Rich Sheben and the rest of us. And then hour number 2, George talked about buying your first gun. And Kyle joined us from New Hampshire as well. And so here's one of the comments. This is from a guy by the name of Keith Woods. That's not his real name, because I've sent him an email, and it's no such email. So this guy is he's an internet troll. But here's what he said. Today's show, this is a quote, today's show, at least we get some informative material concerning preparing from the doomsday prepper himself, Vinny, the mafia boss. But what does George know about guns? He's a Yankee. By the way, what happened to the doomsday prepper's little pet, the French poodle named Trevor? Oh, well, it seems like all the Fruit Loops live in Missouri, Springfield, Missouri, or Niagara, Missouri, USA. Yes, Vinny, maybe it's a good idea to shut down USA Prepares so you can do more of your share of the work around the farm. No, not a chance. He likes to sit on his butt and yap in the morning and ride around the tractor in the evening. Typical Italian Catholic. Vinny always talks about space junk in outer space. How about BS over the airwaves as junk frequencies? Back to BS and gossip with the broken record on Tuesday. That's what this jerk says.
And that amount of information that he put, the time to put that, there has to be something. To spend that amount of time to write and put something like that together, I don't. And the sad thing is, those people like that, when something does happen, I've been to situations where I had to to wonder when I would be able to go out of the house. When something happens, a tornado, anything, preparedness doesn't mean doomsday. It could be a tornado, a flood. When that happens, there's going to be a ton of people sitting there waiting for somebody to come down there and hand them everything. And when that happens, they're not coming to my house.
Well, and you know, you're absolutely right. And when I think about Keith Woods and Magenta, this other jerk, if they come knocking on my door and say, you know what, I'm really sorry that I behaved so badly, I'll say, well, I appreciate that, but have a nice day. I wish I could help you, but there's no way. There's no way I'm going to help people who try to beat us up. No way.
Vince, let me chime in here with David.
Yes.
What David was saying, you know, how he doesn't understand how someone could take all this time just to be negative, basically, and not give information to the people. Well, David, first of all, I want to say that I admire your courage for coming on national radio, actually worldwide radio, because we get a lot of European listeners and Australian and New Zealand and Japan, and I know this because I've gotten comments from all these countries, very positive comments. And what you say about what happened with your childhood is it takes a lot of guts to say that.
Well, it's still happening. I'm not free yet, so that's why the other reason I'm talking. So sorry.
Right. No, and I think you're doing the right thing because the silent majority doesn't benefit anybody in any context. Because that's why we have laws, we have Bill of Rights, we have the Constitution that we stick up for. But let me mention a quick one-sentence quote from Mark Twain, and this will explain a lot of what the so-called left, most of their trolls are bought and paid for. And the quote starts with this: "In the beginning of a change, the patriot is a scarce man, and brave, and hated, and scorned. When his cause succeeds, the timid join him, for then it costs nothing to be a patriot." That's a quote from Mark Twain. Now, as we continue to wake the people up and make sure the people realize that it's a lot less left-right paradigm, a lot more aristocracy managing the serfs, we can really see what the bottom line is happening here is that people on the left, the aristocracy, who funds all these movements, can see that their constituents have realized that the Democrat, the left, whatever you want to call it, has basically been taken over by the globalists, and they've been let down. And they're more conspiracy theorists, propagandists, liars, false flag initiators than anybody out there. They try to create the illusion that there's more socialists out there than patriots. That is not the case at all. It's not even close. There's way more patriots. It's just that the mainstream media and the elite get to hold the microphone a lot more often. Their job is to sway public opinion. That's why I mention once in a while, like a quote from Micah Brzezinski from somewhere, MSNBC, CNN, same thing, doesn't matter. Her quote was, "The media's job is to control exactly what the people think," unquote. So as they race bait, gender bait, sex bait, religion bait all the time to create division and to manufacture perception, pity, and ideology, we are calling them out on this. And just even the attempted coup on our own sitting president. So as the aristocracy keeps managing the serfs with false information, as the people wake up to the division, to the hate, the chaos, the infighting, the lack of civility, the editing of audios and videos, which only represents the elite. And this is why the elite spend so much time demonizing, discrediting, and delegitimizing the people, just like the detractors that Vince was talking about. So when you see all these articles about how miserable young people are in America, you know, they go to college, they come out in so much debt thinking, oh, now I'm marketable, when 90% of the degrees are worthless. And they say, hey, I thought we were taught to think and not be followers. But they come out basically learning how to chant, scream, do temper tantrums, create violence, forget about common sense and logic, even math. I've mentioned this many times, like the University of Illinois professor, a PhD, and this happens all over the country. They're saying that math is now white supremacist, that it should be subjective and not objective. So now that pi is no longer 3.14, you could just mention any number, not to mention the rule of law. So when they can't compete in the arena of ideas and solutions, they need to indoctrinate the people and play the people into the false left-right paradigm. And that's why celebrities, when they say, okay, you give me my money, you give me my fame, and then I'll sell your propaganda. And the people are waking up to the fact that the big names are pushing these narratives. Just like last week when Kamala Harris came out crying, and the Dems are seeking intervention from psychologists and all this other stuff. It's because of the fact they can't win in the arena of ideas and solutions. They have to take people and demonize them and discredit them and delegitimize them because they are representing the elite, the wealthy, of the super rich of the super rich. They do not care about the little people. So as people wake up to the flooding of the country with illegal immigrants, where all they care about is the vote, they vote illegally, the Democrats want them to vote at 16, multiple states, multiple names, dead people voting, felons voting, eliminating the electoral college without a constitution amendment, reparations basically divide the American people more and to buy votes, pushing tyranny, treason, sedition, and espionage under the guise of multiculturalism. Basically, that creates disunity and more greed for the elite. Group identity politics, where hyphenated Americans are literally being played and used. The elimination of free speech. So when the powers that be take the side of illegal immigrants against the indigenous, in other words, the indigenous people, born here, doesn't matter what skin pigmentation, what gender, what sexual orientation, what religion, and culture, traditions, and heritage for the future is gone, especially the rule of law. And this is why I always talk about practice what you preach laws, because as these detractors are bought and paid for, like Vince, what you just said a few moments ago, what it really is doing is waking up the people. Because just like some of the things that I just mentioned, people are waking up to the propaganda, the lies, the false flags, and the hoaxes. And I think your show has been a big benefit.
Class, if you'd like to call in...
You should also think about Plan Z.
Class, if you'd like to call in, 866-582-9933. We'll be right back. Rich Scheben's with us. David in Illinois is with us. David's going to be on with us 2-hour special on Friday. And he is the young man who John Wayne Gacy, the mass murderer, attempted to kidnap and have his way with. And David was able to escape. We're going to be talking about David's childhood when we broadcast on Friday, 2-hour special. David, I want to thank you for calling in. Is there anything else you'd like to say quickly? We have George on hold.
I'll let him call and talk to you, but I do appreciate your show. We did been doing the things Dr. Shealy advised us to, and my wife, she's doing a lot better, and now we're going to try. We did get his books, 2 of his books, so appreciate it. Thank you very much. So,
Dr. Shealy, Dr. Norman Shealy is a national treasure. David, thank you so much for calling in today.
Thank you very much.
Friday. See you on Friday.
All right, bye. All right.
George in New Hampshire, welcome. Your ears must have been burning.
Well, I guess. Hey, Rich, how you doing?
Hey, George, how you doing, buddy?
Good. I just want to say this. The Civil War ended a long time ago, and I'll bet none of our ancestors fought in it, all right? I can't speak for you, Rick. I think for Vincent, our ancestors were over in Europe, and basically we emigrated here after the fact. But that was their war. It's not our war. We're facing new wars now, new threats to the country, new threats to us. And, like I say, that guy saying, okay, I'm a Yankee. Well, it's a state of mind when you really come down to it, because it's not so much where you're born, it's what you are inside and how you formed up that really matters. Where you can get along with, like that other gentleman, George from Mississippi. Now, that's deep south. And now there's a gentleman, and he appreciates your show, Vincent, and he appreciates his Rich and everyone. Hey, none of us are perfect. And like I said, like you say, none of us could hold a regular job, all right? Yeah. But what I'm saying is that guy seems to have a lot of free time down there. And like I say, and if he had something worthwhile to say, he could pick up a phone and call up. And as he's sitting on his fat keister at the keyboard, trolling and sending in those type of negative messages about you being Italian and you being Catholic and you riding around on a tractor all day or sitting in the studio, he could pick up a phone and he can contribute something to help his fellow American here and people around the world, rather than just feel superior and hide behind a keyboard. So I won't go on. I'm sorry.
You're right. George, you're absolutely right. The police listen to us every day. How do I know this? Because they call me. They have access to, phone numbers that other people might not be able to get. The police call me and tell me they listen every day. Now, I'm not saying all the cops are our detractors. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that we have some detractors who also listen to us every day. And they spew their hate almost every day. But not one of our detractors, not one, let me say a different way, not one of our detractors has the courage, the intestinal fortitude, as my dad would say, to give us a call. And here's that number. You can call us right now. Detractors, call us right now. I challenge you to do that. 866-582-9933. And in case you didn't get it the first time, 866-582-9933. Give us a call. Tell us what's on your mind, and we'll discuss it. But you'll have to be polite. You can't use profanity because I'll dump you immediately. I've got a little button, and I can dump you right off the air. Okay? I will do that because the rest of us are polite, and the rest of us don't use profanity. So if you can get your message across by be polite and not use profanity, we'll let you say it. Other than that, we're not going to let you say it. It's as simple as that. So who are these detractors? They're weak. They're parasites. They are just bags of protoplasm. That's all they are.
Well, Vince,
George?
let me tell you something. It's just like you've heard of the saying beer muscles. Same thing with the internet muscles. You're behind the screen and they feel they can get away with it. But you got to remember, we talk about this all the time. These are divide and conquer strategies. Just like when they said George was a Yankee. Everything is divide and conquer. Put everybody in groups and get everybody angry. That's all it's about.
Hey, we'll be right back. George, please stay with us. I wanted to share a comment while George is still with us. When I first moved to Missouri, about almost 15 years ago, I wanted to learn how the government operated in our county. So I went down to the county commissioners' meetings during the day, and I just kind of sit and watch. Nobody was really interested in going there, and there were very few people, maybe me or maybe one other person. And so one day I said, you guys ever go to lunch? And they said, yeah. So I went to lunch with them for several weeks, once a week. And because I wanted to get to know them. And we all paid for our own lunch. It wasn't like there was anybody buying anybody else's lunch. Each person paid for his own lunch. There were three of them. One of them was a police chief, in addition, in the county, in addition to being a county commissioner. And there are two things that stood out. So after several weeks of meeting with them, one of the guys leaned across the table and said, do you always wear the same shirt? And I said, no, I don't always wear the same shirt. But when I find a shirt that I like, I buy a bunch of them. So they all look the same. That was one thing that kind of stood out. The other thing that stood out was the guy who was the police chief after the third or fourth luncheon leaned he was sitting directly across from me. He leaned across the small table that we were sitting at, and he said, "How come I can't find anything out about you?" I said, "What do you mean?" And so I did a background check on you, and we can't find anything. There's nothing. We can't find anything out about you. I kind of was flattered that they spent the time and effort to try to figure out whatever they were trying to figure out, but they came up empty, completely empty, nothing. They could find not a single thing going through their criminal database information system, nothing. And I said, and I looked at him very, very sternly, and I said, not everyone's a felon. And so that was the information about what happened to me with the police. So if you think that the cops don't want to know who you are, I think you might be mistaken. Any other comments, George? We've got Kyle on hold.
Sure. Okay, I'll just say quick. Two quick things. One is I'd like to step in and help support, too. And I know it's not the money, Vincent, but I know also you shouldn't have to carry the whole load on yourself or on your family. And the other thing I'll just say is that, I appreciate you being there and being in the companies of ladies and gentlemen. And like I say, hey, we're all infected to varying degrees. And when the system goes down, whatever tentacles are still stuck to us, it's going to have a pull on us to a degree that, let's just say, we're all going to be going through a test. And I'm thankful that we have this time together. And like I said, all good things come to an end, as they said. And in the end, we're all going to come to an end. And let's just say we're going to be judged on what we did and what we didn't do, and not whether we're a Yankee or a Southerner or any of these other particular things that in the overall scheme of things, in God's eyes, he's going to look at you and say, what did you do for your neighbor, and what did you do to, live by my commandments? And that's all I'm going to say, gentlemen, and thank you. Bye-bye.
George, you are a true gentleman. Well, George is one of the nicest people I've ever had the pleasure of chatting with. I've never met him. He's the USA Prepares instructor. Thank you, George, for your kindness. Kyle in Montana, welcome.
Good morning, Vince. I ditto with what George just said. I totally agree with him. But you asked for detractors to call in, and I grew up on detractor, and so I was thinking that maybe I was one of them too. So I figured maybe I better call in and chime in. But anyway, the reality is, just like you've said over and over again, and Rich has said, there is this chasm between those people that have common sense and those that have completely lost it and become part of the GDP, is getting wider and wider and wider and wider. And eventually it's going to come to a head, and when it does, people should be thinking, unless there is some kind of a huge emergencies, as in, the San Andreas fault, EMP, or a coronal mass ejection, or the Cascadia, I think it's called the Cascadia shelf, were to shift or something along those lines and do a major damage to this country, it's going to end, or a financial collapse, which even the financial collapse is going to precipitate a civil war, because there will be so much unrest. And I believe personally that people need to be thinking about the reality of what that's going to look like and what they can do about it now to try to prepare as much as they possibly can, which I know your program's about that a lot, so, but it's just chiming in, just dittos to whatever you're doing, to what you're doing, Vince. We out here that listen to you all the time and that have an inkling of common sense left. We appreciate all the people that you have on, and almost all of the people that call in. and none of this would have happened. None of this would have not happened if you hadn't have been strong enough to pull it off. And I appreciate you.
You're very kind. I want to share something with you. So, what will this look like if it goes south? Well, just look at Venezuela. Right now, Venezuela is in absolute chaos. People who used to be probably pretty nice are now digging up the dead. They are going to cemeteries and unearthing dead people looking for jewelry to survive. This is how far, well, actually, it's not quite as far as society can devolve, but it's almost there. The next step is eating the soon-to-be dead, meaning eating the children, eating the relatives, eating passersby on the street, killing people for dinner, killing people to become dinner. Cannibalism is what I'm talking about. That's next. This is how bad it can be, really. And we're trying to let people know that it's way, way, way worse than their most extreme imaginations can take them.
But gentlemen, I really think people are waking up. That's why I gave that very quick, short monologue a little while ago about people waking up. And I think, people are seeing all the tricks and the propaganda being done by the elites, just like your little example, Vince, about how those people wanted to get criminal convictions on your past, is because they want leverage to control you. And you know what's funny? The average person, they say, because there's so many stupid laws in the books, they say I've read this several times, the average person probably commits 2 felonies a day. So, we've gotten to the point where they can get us coming and going, and now they're trying to, encourage thought police and thought crimes and stuff. It's basically all about control. It's about the addiction to power, money, and control by the elite. And I think the people are waking up to this. And this is why there's so many articles coming out about how miserable young people are, because they have been disillusioned. And I really think that, just like how the elites are blaming the populace for everything that's going to be happening, including our failing economy. Well, it's all a bunch of BS, because, it's just like the EU recently just launched a fact checker to combat populism ahead of the elections. It's, people need to remember a lot of what's happened, like with the EU. They've drafted legislation in small print saying privacy and anonymity does no longer matter. So they want to ban cash eventually, because the anonymity and privacy does not constitute fundamental human rights. So the globalists are voting no for, of, and by the people by using central banks and other tools. I think people are waking up to all this stuff. And I think there's a call for people, for the little guy to stand up for the rule of law. Here's 2 articles. Mugshot, illegal alien previously deported for sex crimes, arrested on 100 counts of child porn. And I'm sure you guys have read this article. Mugshot, female illegal alien kills 13-year-old girl riding on her bike to school. Now, why is all these things happening when the Democrats say one person gets killed by a gun, we should take them all away? But we have thousands of deaths, tens of thousands of rapes and sexual assaults in this country per year. Why aren't they doing anything about that? It's because they want the vote. And people are seeing this. There's no way we can continue commerce under these circumstances. Manhattan real estate sales fall longest streak in 30 years. 30. It's because taxes and insurance are so high in urban suburban America that you can't pencil out a purchase for younger generations to buy a piece of property, because they can't even, never mind their principal on their mortgage, they can't afford the taxes and insurance. So people are leaving the Californias, the Illinois, the Northeast states. I mean, Jersey's implemented a rain tax, for Pete's sakes. People are waking up. you guys. So I'm looking at the glass half full in the sense that hopefully there's enough people, enough patriots willing to stand up. That's one of the reasons I read that Mark Twain quote. Because even though a patriot is a scarce man and brave and hated and scorned in the beginning, okay, when he or she succeeds, the timid join him. And then it costs nothing to be a patriot. People are waking up. People are speaking up. People are getting the propaganda, the lies, the false flags, and the hoaxes. They're getting it. So I'm going to put my money on the American people, on patriots. I don't care what skin color you are, what gender you are, what sexual orientation or religion you are. I'm going to put my money on the American people. And
I'm okay with that, Rich, except if you're a homo, don't get in my fighting hole. Kyle, your comments when we come back. Rich Sheben's with us, offgridmontana.com. Kyle's with us in Montana. And class, if you're wondering who we are at USA Prepares, you've heard it this morning. All calls were unsolicited. No calls were made prior saying, hey, would you please come on the air? These are just calls that were initiated by those who called. Actually, and all of them have been, with the exception of one, has been a USA Prepares instructor. And there's a quote I'd like to share before Kyle jumps in with his comments in the final segment. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Repeat. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. That was by Edmund Burke. Absolutely correct. And we're seeing this. We're seeing good men, and of course good women, sit back thinking that, well, it'll probably all work out, and other people will take care of it. So, why get involved? Well, if everybody says that, nobody will be involved. And they'll run us over. The other team will run us over. Kyle, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree, Vince. It's, I'm not as optimistic as Rich on this because I've been around so many people that were quote unquote concerned about, the political environment. I run into them every day. I talk to them all the time, literally every day. And yet I have yet to find one of them who is preparing for the worst. They are all doing exactly what you just said. They are hoping that somebody else will step up to the plate and say something and do something. And personally, I'm not advocating in any way, shape, or form any kind of violence, but I think you will know that the American people have woken up when these activist judges will make a decision like that one that stopped Trump from stopping people from going, across the border into the country, when they are afraid for their lives when they make a decision like that. I think that's how you're going to know that the American people have woken up. Unfortunately, that's going to be the catalyst for a police state or civil war.
And it'll be too late. It'll be too late for many, many reasons. One is there won't be enough ammunition to defend yourself. So let me say it a different way, class, other than the way I've been saying it. Get more ammo. Get more ammo. And you can think of it like this. Ammo will be the currency of trade in the future. And ammo may save your life. So if you have a gun or 2 or 3 or 12 or whatever the number may be, and you've got no ammo, you're better off with a baseball bat. I'm serious. Amen. It's easier to swing a baseball bat than it is to swing a rifle. And very quickly, class, I'm going to ask Kyle for his opinion on this. For most purposes, you don't need scopes. You don't need laser pointers. You don't need all these accessories. Just good iron sights and some practice. Would you agree with that, Kyle?
Absolutely true. And you better, whether you have a scope or not, you better make sure that your iron sights are sighted in anyway. because those things can fail. Sure, it's better for precision, but it can be done out to 500 yards. I guarantee it because I've done it with iron sights. And so that's pretty much the maximum range that most normal average hunters, that's the maximum they can do anyway. So even with the scope, but you can learn how to shoot a scope out, or iron sights out to 500 yards pretty easily. It ain't that tough.
Right. Rich Scheben, any quick comments?
Well, I think we should look at true diversity not being skin pigmentation, gender, or sexual orientation or religion, but ideas and solutions that's intellectual, that sticks up and stands up for the little people who does not have representation or restitution under the law. And that's what we do here. And we just got to hope. We just got to keep trying.
Yeah, and class, I want you to just think about one of the words that Rich Scheben just mentioned. We. He said that's what we do here. He's speaking for all of us. He's speaking for Kyle, Norm, Ricky, John Regan, Guineith, all of us. It's what we do. And that includes you. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for being with us.